Welcome to Chinwag Tuesdays, your passport to a world of language and culture. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chinwag Tuesdays. I'm Amanda, and today's special guest is another Aussie, Tom. He's an English teacher from Melbourne. Thanks for joining me today, Tom.
No worries, Amanda. Thank you so much for having me.
So, how about we do a bit of an introduction? Let everyone know how you became an English teacher, and you've got your own language academy, which is really cool, Ace Language Academy. So, maybe you can tell us a bit more about how you became a teacher, a bit about the language academy, and what services you offer.
Yeah, for sure. So actually, the reason why we got in contact was because a lot of my students follow you on Instagram.
That's so
And I
cool.
remember, yeah, and I remember getting into contact with you as well. And yeah, the school came about, I think, mainly through travel, honestly. So outside of high school, I was studying business at university, and then I was working for a bank here in Melbourne, and then went abroad and worked in a few jobs in Portugal. I was working in a surf office, which is
Oh,
like a
cool.
co-work space where you'd go surfing. Yeah. And I really like the idea of, kind of becoming like an entrepreneur and starting your own thing. And then worked in England for a bit and in Scotland. And then in Croatia, I came across this person from Sydney who was running an English school and teaching English. And I was always
Mhm.
really good at English in high school. And then I came across this method called the Callan Method. And I honestly just fell in love with it. So much fun. You get to sort of, act and speak all the time with students in groups and private classes. And I was
Mhm.
doing that in Split along the coast.
Oh,
And then,
cool.
yeah, it was amazing. Yeah. And then I went to Zagreb, the capital, at another school that's linked. And yeah, I taught there and just had the best time. And I became really close with one of the owners there, a guy from Ireland called Sean. And he really inspired me as well to give me that belief that you can start your own school when you come
Yeah.
home. So I came back to Australia. I worked at a travel agency job because I still had that travel bug.
Yeah.
I worked with my family and their business. And then I would teach on the weekends. So like three jobs for a year or two
Oh
in
my
this tiny apartment
gosh.
just here. So the school's located in QV in near Melbourne Central in the center of Melbourne. And then yeah, this one bedroom apartment. I'd start the school and work from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, making coffees for all the students. And then
Yeah.
yeah, and it was really hard work, but I did that, built the reviews to really what it is today. And then after a few years, COVID happened and we all
Mhm.
went online and we didn't really do any online classes
Yeah.
until that happened. Yeah. And then now I'm in a co-work space here in the city, which my
Mhm.
accountant was working at. And yeah, we've been running this for now for 7 years. And
Wow.
yeah, I absolutely love it. I think the main thing that really inspired me was it was a job where you got to help people. And
Mhm.
I just really love getting to teach every day and help them. And they trust you with their
Yeah.
goals to get a visa or a PTE test or just to feel
Mhm.
more confident in speaking. And I just love that. I love that feeling and
Yeah.
that glow you get when they finally improve or pronounce words correctly. And yeah, I really love it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so much fun.
Oh, that's so good. And
Yeah.
so now, do you still have like the physical school or do you run all your classes out of the co-working space as well? Like, where do you do your physical teaching?
Yeah, so well at the moment this year everyone's doing face to face
Yeah.
and a lot of private lessons. So yeah, we're here in the co-work space pretty much every day, even on Saturdays as well, which is cool.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
yeah, we do a mixture, so online and face to face. And yeah, we do sort of anything that you need. So we do pronunciation workshops. It's so important to get the TH correct, R and L,
Mm-hmm.
and to say words correctly. We do private lessons, group classes, general business English for
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
PT and
Wow.
IELTS, and even for as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. And
Mm.
so you are of Croatian heritage, aren't you? Your parents, were they born in Australia or did they immigrate? Was it your parents, your grandparents that immigrated?
Well, my mum and dad were born overseas and then they
Okay.
came here. And then my three sisters and I were born here. And so, yeah, half. And I think that kind
Yeah.
of helps understanding what the students go through by
Yeah.
having a
Sure.
mixed culture in your
Yeah.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you were in Croatia living there, were you able to speak
Mm.
the language?
Well, that's the thing. So I think you asked like what inspired you, and it's probably because I can sympathize with a lot of students
Mm,
because I know what it feels like. The biggest struggle for me was I was never able to speak Croatian as a kid growing up. And
yeah,
even now I'm learning Croatian because only now I feel sort of comfortable to do it. And
yeah,
that's been really, really big for me because, yeah, I was
mm,
living over there. I couldn't really speak it. And you feel
yeah,
isolated and alone and
for
outside of
sure.
the
Yeah,
norm. And I think that's what helped me as well because I can really say, oh, yeah, I know what that feels like when you're living here in Melbourne and you just want to stay in your
yeah,
community and you don't want to make mistakes. So, yeah, I'm learning now actually. And it's really cool to see what the student goes through
yeah,
and to be even better teacher as well.
yeah, definitely. Oh, it's so tough, isn't it? Like my Hindi is not advanced. Like I'm definitely fluent. I can live day to day and I can communicate on a basic level and I'm probably like pre-intermediate, but yeah, I mean when I first moved here it was super isolating and the only person I really spoke to all day was my husband and then COVID happened
Yeah.
anyway, so then that was even more isolating and there was
Yeah,
then
exactly.
basically zero communication with anyone. But it did make
Mm,
it so much harder not knowing the language. And it was really awkward and embarrassing as well, because I remember that we used to have someone come to the door before I moved here. My
mm,
mother in law used to kind of stay intermittently with my husband in the apartment. And the days that she would stay, she would make tea for like the workers of the
mm-hmm.
building that we lived in, like the cleaners and stuff. So when I moved here, she stopped coming as often, but they would still come knocking on the door for tea. And well, one, I didn't know how to make Indian tea. And two, I didn't know what they were saying. And I remember there were times where like I would just close the door on their face because I didn't understand
Do you know,
them.
I used to do a thing when I was a kid when someone would call from like Bosnia or Croatia, and I go, "What? I don't understand what you're saying." And and they're like, "What are you doing? Is your
Yeah.
grandfather calling?" Yeah, I know, I
Yeah, you
know.
panic. It's the
You
panic, isn't it?
panic. It is. You freak out, and you're like, "I have no idea." No. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, it is. Oh, it's so, so, so tough. So, I definitely can also sympathize with, our students or people that come to us to want to improve their English because they don't want those uncomfortable situations anymore.
Yeah, and it also it's like, they get it. They can relate to us, where
Yeah.
as well, it's like no one's above anyone
Yeah.
and, and kind of go, I know it can be really freaky and really hard. And yeah, for sure. And and what's the language like to learn it coming from Australia? Is it,
Ah,
and they speak quick too. Like students tell us, Aussies, we speak so quick, but in
yeah.
India, how do you go with even the understanding of the accent?
So, Hindi is the most commonly spoken language here. It's not a national language. There's no
Yeah.
national language, but it's one of the nationally recognized languages and it's
Mm.
the most commonly spoken. So most of North India speaks and understands Hindi. South India, whole different ball game. Because there's a lot of different regional language. Every state has a
Yeah.
regional language pretty much.
Yeah.
So I live in the state of Punjab. The regional language here is Punjabi, but it's like a
Punjabi,
sister
yeah.
to Hindi, so I can actually understand it. And when people are speaking Punjabi, because there's a lot of the same
Mm,
words, but in the South, nothing like that. Neighboring languages are not similar at all. So with Hindi itself, it's quite difficult because the sentence structure is different to English. So, English is subject, verb, object is at the end. Hindi is subject, object in the middle, verb at the end. They have
mhm,
gendered nouns.
mhm,
The verb
mm,
conjugates or changes according to the person. So, me as, first person female, my verb ending would be different to say my husband, or when I'm speaking about my husband, I would speak about him in a formal tone out of respect. So, then that's a different verb
uh,
ending.
yeah,
Whereas if I'm just talking about, let's say if I'm talking about you, I would just refer to you as like the same level as me in terms of formality, and then that would be a
mm,
different verb ending, even though you and my husband are both male. So, yeah, it is quite hard. I just refer to everyone in a formal tone. I don't use the informal
mm,
tone for anyone just because it's
mhm.
easier for me. I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah, yeah. It's similar to Croatian with the verbs and the endings as well.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
there's no word for a or an or the.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that blew
Same
my
here. There's no
mind.
articles.
Even as a kid, I was just like, how are we gonna do that? And we have a lot
Yeah.
of cases with our verbs, like
Okay.
locative, genitive, accusative. So it's like if you're going into a place, that's a different ending of the verb. And then you've got
Okay.
female, male, neutral, plural as
Ooh,
well.
okay, so it is a bit similar. Yeah.
Do you know what it is? It's like an engineer's dream because it's just so formula based. Like I really think you could map out the language and do that sort of formula. Whereas with English, do you ever tell your students, I get it all the time, right? I have to go, it's just English. Like I have no grammar. I can't back it up with any grammar. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
just
why.
how it
No one
is.
knows really why. It is what it is. And they look
It's
at
an
you and you're
exception.
like, yeah, exactly. And they're like, how many exceptions are there? And
Yeah.
I find like so many other languages, and they
Yally.
stay on
Yeah.
point, whereas ours is just, and then you've got the Aussie slang, which is just a
Yeah,
completely different language when they come here. Yeah,
for
textbook I'm
sure.
fine and new doesn't exist at all.
Yeah, yeah, exactly right.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really learnt Hindi slang. There's not too much, but they have the script. So the script letters like this. So they
Oh,
have the
right.
script writing. That's my husband's name. Yeah. So they
Oh,
have
nice. Yeah,
that
cool.
script writing, which I can read. And it's kind of like the phonetic alphabet in a way, it's phonetic based. I understand that and it's very straightforward, but there is the romanization characters. So, for example, like namaste, I know the letters, but then I know that if I read the English characters Nanaste, that's namaste. So,
Mm.
the thing that I really struggle with is reading text, Hindi text, because people shorten words. They take out vowel letters. Like, for example, like when is kab, Kab, but people just write KB and they won't include the A.
Because what's the
So,
point? Because
yeah,
you've got that A already within it. Yeah.
yeah, it's because
Yeah.
when you actually look at the characters, cub is just technically KB in this because they have like, they do have a long R essentially, written as double A. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's something that I really struggle with is trying to understand like text. If I'm reading like captions or comments on Instagram, sometimes I do that just to try and practice. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's really tough. And even if I don't understand something and I screenshot it and put it to Google Translate, it can't even understand because people
No,
are just leaving
absolutely.
bloody letters out.
And I know exactly the audacity of them, you know.
I know,
Did
right?
and yeah. Did you find is Hindi the first language you've learnt? Um,
Seriously, like this. Yeah,
Seriously?
for
Yeah.
sure. My mum is Italian, so she was born in
Oh,
Australia,
yeah.
but her parents immigrated during the immigration rush of the 50s.
Yeah.
Um, and we started to learn Italian, and we were going to go to Italian school when we were kids, but we ended up moving away from Sydney to my hometown in New South Wales, which actually has like a huge Indian population. So I actually ended up
Mm.
learning Punjabi for a couple of years at school,
Oh, wow.
which is so funny. I still remember counting to 10 from my time at school, but
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
really learnt Italian seriously. I would love to. It's definitely on my bucket list in my life to learn Italian.
Mm.
Um, the odd languages we learnt at school, like Indonesian. I learned French in high school for
Mm.
2 years,
Mm.
but Hindi is the first language that I've really that I can speak to this kind of level. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not something that I ever have been able to do in the past. Like I can say how are you in Italian and all those basic things, but that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And did you find that I think that being a teacher, it works on so many levels. There was this, I mean, you've moved to India, your husband's from India, and being
Hmm.
in that new country, it helps you become a better teacher. You
For
understand what
sure.
the student goes through. You also go, wow, I liked what that teacher did. I should do
Yeah.
more of that. Or,
Yeah.
your patience as well and your passion
Hmm.
and the preparation.
Yeah.
I think it's really important for any teacher actually to do that. And also because you're teaching a language, I think
Mm.
you kind of should in a way because you're doing what your students are doing and
Yeah.
you can then also relate. And now I can see why so many Europeans, especially from Eastern Europeans, speak English the way they do. And,
Yeah.
and the way they like formulate their sentences as well and what they exclude
Yeah.
and include as well.
Yeah.
And
You can understand more because you're learning language.
and then yeah, you have to think and speak directly in that language and
Yeah.
cut out so many prepositions
Yeah.
and
It's postpositions. So
oh my
instead of saying
wow.
on the table, you would say on. and there's no
Yeah.
yeah, positional
Yeah.
phrases. Oh,
Wow. Yeah. It's and so yeah, it is. It's I think that's all a big part of it of why, teaching English was so important.
yeah,
And just being real and down to earth with the students. And also it's
yeah,
just so much fun. I think they can sense
yeah,
students when you're passionate about what you do and that you love
definitely.
it as well and
Yeah,
you want them to achieve their goals. So
yeah.
yeah, teaching's the best, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Well, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it, right? I
No,
mean, some people I
exactly.
know
Yeah.
get stuck in jobs they don't like, and but then that really, especially like customer focused roles, because this is what it is. It's a customer service
Yeah.
role, right? Because
You're
we're
giving
providing
a
a
lot.
service to a customer. So it's
Yeah.
still as much as people like I've seen it online, like in Facebook groups I'm in for teachers, where people
Yeah.
they don't think that it's like a service-based job or that it's customer service, but it is. There's a requirement of having to like kind of sell yourself in terms of your services, but you're still providing a service to a customer.
I remember when we chatted and I got in touch with you. Yeah, all my students were following you. A lot of them were following you.
Mm,
And then I think speaking with you was one of the people I was like, it's exactly why I'm doing it, is
yeah,
because it doesn't feel like work. Like I've got a lot of people I know as well who do jobs just for jobs, and that's totally
yeah,
okay. But
yeah.
it was cool to relate to someone who's genuinely passionate about it and you wake up, doesn't feel like work, but you've got to
Hmm.
balance it off by like, yeah, giving, presenting well, you're teaching. There's this,
Yeah, yeah,
you're
exactly.
helping someone and you kind of
Yeah,
have to have your stuff together, um,
true.
so that
Yeah,
they can learn from you. And yeah, it's such a unique job as well. It's not something that you can just go to brain dead one day after the
no,
weekend and just sit behind the
no.
computer and do your thing. Like you're really
Definitely
there
not.
with
So much
them.
preparation is involved. And I don't think students realize that too, especially, I mean, new students. Current students, yes, because they're the ones receiving all of that information and
Mm,
seeing the work. But, there's been times I don't think people realize that, when, as independent contractors, when we set our rates, for example, people don't realize what goes into that. It's not just we're sitting down for 50 minutes and having a chat. It's the preparation time beforehand. It's checking homework if required, doing the research for those lessons, especially if it's a personalized plan. It's having
yeah.
to pay for, your taxes, all of the, the platforms and stuff that we use, all of that goes into our rates we have to account for. So it's not as simple
Yeah.
as saying, yep, I'm just charging like this amount because we're just talking for 50 minutes. There's so much behind the scenes that I don't think new students realize that we have to account for.
Yeah. And another thing as well that inspired me to create ACE was now that I've started my own business and school and
Hmm.
teaching, I look back at like teachers from high school, actually Mr. Broadbent, if he ever gets to watch this, listen, who was a history teacher and he put so much effort into his work.
Yeah.
And studying VC year 11, 12 here in Victoria, it was, you know,
Is that the
I
Victorian version of HSC?
HSC
Your
or
your
ATAR.
12. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, now it
Yeah.
changed to ATAR. Yeah. So when back in my day, it was the
Yeah, exactly. I
HSC.
know. Yeah. And he was this history teacher who just, he prepared so much extra stuff outside the curriculum.
Yeah,
And now
amazing.
even when, I don't know if you found it as well when you're studying anything, that I look at other people like, honestly, like a PT or a yoga instructor or a customer service at a clothes shop down the road or anyone who like provides a service. And I go, wow, like you admire it. And people
Yeah.
who actually care, go the extra mile and
Yeah.
put that extra effort in. And I really love that with personalized classes where, so for
Yeah.
example, there's a student from Germany who just
Hmm.
arrived and she wants to become a personal trainer. And we could have just done a general English class, but
Yeah.
the cool part is going, hey, here are, 50 vocab items you should learn that will help you to become a PT with the
Yeah.
translation. Let's learn
Hmm.
that, write that in a diary, Aussie slang, and,
Yeah.
how to give instructions during a session, actually going for a coffee with the student. And I love
Yeah.
that part. I think they love it too because it's not
Yeah.
just like textbook learning is good and we use this method and it's fantastic,
It
but
it
then it's
plays
the
its part.
application.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you kind of go, hey, I love being able to come to the student and be like, guess what? Like, we've got a present for you, all these cool terms that you can use. And
Yeah.
like, real. So we create a document sort of
Hmm.
dashboard thing for our students when they join. So it'll
Yeah.
be they write a diary, we can fix it, edit it, give them some more Aussie vocab.
Yeah.
And then, just like terms related to their job. There was one student, so we've got a client who it's sort of like work cover. So they're a consulting company where, yeah, people get injured at work and then
Mm-hmm.
they need an English provider to help them so that they can, go from a factory job, hurt their arm to then a
Yeah,
service
so
one.
they're like reduced their mountains
Capability
and
maybe, or
leaves.
like, just
Yeah,
like
like they
being
kind of have
able.
to go on limited duties or light duties, and they need someone to kind of assess what they're capable of. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was one student who wants to become a real estate agent, so we
Mm.
went through how to write, you know, emails and phone calls, and we'll actually phone call them and pretend we're a customer or whatever and
Yeah. Oh,
simulate
that's so
that. And
good.
that kind of out of the box learning and is,
Yeah.
I think like any good class or teacher you remember was the one who, you know, cared and did extra things. And I always appreciate it when my Croatian teacher, Tamara, does it. She's in Zagreb and I learn online with another student.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so much fun. And then it's like you give each other presents and you celebrate them passing an
Yeah.
IELTS test and give
Mm-hmm.
food to each other. It's so cool. It's like you're back at school. Those like last
Yeah.
like Christmas break and stuff and you exchange gifts and it was like the best time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. It's just fantastic. So yeah, I think teachers, other people inspire you as well, people who do their job well. And even the students, like, I don't know if you've ever had a bad day, we all have, but like you have a bad day or, something's going on and you teach, you get out of your head and
Yeah.
you're helping someone and you just good after it. Like you're just helping someone.
Yes.
Do you get
Yeah.
that? And it's
Yeah, for
like,
sure. Mm-hmm.
it's so good to have in your life.
It is. I think it's so important. It kind of it gives you your purpose, doesn't it? It's like something
Yeah.
meaningful and it helps give a
Making a
purpose. And
difference.
yep, definitely. I mean, I don't think customer service is not made for everyone for sure.
Yeah.
But some kind of purpose that brings joy to their days, whatever that
Mm,
looks like, I think that's really incredible.
mm. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So, what would you say are some key skills that learners should focus on if they want to succeed in both professional and everyday English? Let's say in Australia, because we both help people in Australia.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the main thing our students ask for, I think there's a few things. I think pronunciation for sure. I think to start off with that, to be
Yeah.
able to produce the sounds clearly. We do a thing where we do like pronunciation workshop, and
Yeah.
I've seen you do a lot of great content about it as well. But it's like mouth shape and sound, and it's like
Yeah.
learning the shape first, then the sound, how to produce the th, r, and l. It's
Mm-hmm.
also crazy that a lot of places don't teach pronunciation,
I
and there are
know.
so many
Yeah.
schools, and it's like
It's a
there's
huge
a lot.
part of communication.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what it's like in New South Wales, how many language schools there are, but there are so
Mm.
many here in Melbourne and Victoria. We're the education state of Australia. And so a lot of people come here honestly for visas and
Mm.
they get, an English school. And, I think they're good, but a lot of them don't
Mm.
teach speaking or like real life
Yes.
speaking. And that's why they
True.
come to a school like us because it's like, we need to learn that. So I think focusing on your pronunciation so that you're like, all right, I'm confident I can produce the sound, how to say
Mm-hmm.
things correctly, speaking every day. So speaking in general, I asked my Croatian teacher, other teachers from other schools, and said, What should I do? I'm a student now. Like, how do I learn? And they said,
Yeah.
yes, speak every day. So students are here in Australia. So use your job, use your friends, meetup.com,
Yeah.
go to Woolies, cafes. I call that like free English, where try a
Yeah.
phrase every day or order a
Yeah.
coffee a different way. And, you know, and so sometimes I don't have people to speak to Croatian with every day.
Mm.
And they said, just speak out loud.
Yeah.
Like,
Speak to yourself for sure.
I'm
Such an
sitting, yes, yeah,
undervalued
them.
skill.
I'm walking, I'm going to this place or I'm brushing my teeth and just say it out loud, especially if you're a beginner. And that German student, we were at the state library in our last class and we'll do a tour of the city. And then I'll say, I go up to this person and try ask for what time do you guys close? And now let's buy
Yeah.
a coffee. And I want you to say, can I please grab instead of saying one flat white? And then you're like,
Yeah.
cool, I've done that.
I'll be
Now my
careful. You'll
next
get bloody
challenge.
eaten alive for saying that word on the internet.
Which
I
one?
actually had to limit grab. I had to limit comments on one of my
Ah,
reels because I had like people basically abusing me, Australians abusing me, saying, "We don't say grab."
oh, really?
Anyway, yeah, that's social
Ah,
media trolls for you though. But anyway, no, it's
ah,
correct. We use it. You definitely
yeah,
use it, but some people
yeah.
are, get really like, it's rude. Anyway,
There's
so no.
there is a thing as well where it's like another one as well is I think a key skill. You should focus on immersing yourself in the culture. So if you're
Yes.
here in Australia, a big thing comes from I had this with students and I was like, what's the thing here that is gonna help them to realize like what's going on? And it's the
Yeah.
culture. So we're
Yeah.
relaxed, we're quite informal, especially in work as well, not just
Yeah.
every day. That shows you're friendly. And I think it's, learning slang, idioms and phrasal verbs for sure.
Yeah.
And pretty much we have our own little language besides from to English is,
Yeah.
Aussie English. Just learning it. You don't have to use it. You don't have to say, g'day mate, my name's Koraha.
I
I'm from
know.
Japan
Yes.
and Tokyo. Like
I don't even
that's
use g'day.
no,
Like,
like
it's
I
such a big
rarely use
stereotype,
it.
isn't it? Yeah. It's
Shrimp
good
on the
to
barbie,
understand,
g'day.
but you don't have to use these things. Sorry, I just completely derailed
No,
your answer here.
no, it's not for sure. It's like it's
Yeah.
sort of use what you feel comfortable with. So we kind of give a list.
Exactly.
There'll be
Yeah.
some words where like I think for example saying whereabouts is one
Yeah.
that keeps coming up. What are you up to this weekend? Instead of saying what are you doing?
Yes.
To sound less
Yeah.
direct. And those ones are like, yeah, use it or servo for service station, avo for
Yeah.
avocado brekkie, things like that. They're really cool. They love to learn that. So I think immerse yourself in the culture. Read, like we recommend ABC News just to read the headlines.
Cool.
We find they're not too biased in any way. And then the English level is
Yeah.
quite good and they use slang as well. So doing
Yeah.
that, one thing I recommend is in Victoria, we have a radio station called Gold 104 because
Okay.
I'm an old soul and I listen to this Christian O'Connell podcast in the morning
Okay.
and I love it. And on Spotify and iHeartRadio, you can listen to the radio show without all the ads and music.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it's an English guy and two Aussies, a woman and a guy. I think the other guy, Jack, does Hamish and Andy. He's the producer on that. You might
Oh,
see him. So
nice. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just a great level, and there's a whole transcript, much like you do with your
Hmm.
these videos. So I think if you did that every day, and then so I'll get them to do that. So yeah, pronunciation, speak every day, immerse yourself in the culture and confidence, make mistakes,
Yes.
let that part of your ego go. You have to make
Yeah.
mistakes. I say to the students all the time, like, in a way, like, I don't care. Like, go for it. Make the mistake
Yeah.
and
You're
just
providing them
fix
with
it.
that safe space, and then they feel confident enough or comfortable
Yeah.
enough to make mistakes outside. Yeah.
Do you know, maybe that's what we do as teachers is that you go, there are a lot of students who have this wall and they're petrified to make a mistake. I had that in Korea. I still have that at the moment where only now, and I'm 32, where I am feeling comfortable by going, you know what? I'm going to try speak. If you don't understand me or if you make fun of me or whatever, you know, bugger off. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep going. And to get that resilience and to kind of,
Yes.
because if, a student might try to say something and they stuff it up and they get in their shell and they're like, oh, don't worry.
Mm.
And, they're shy.
Yeah.
That's so hard to get out of. And
Yeah.
I think finding your way to get that confidence, which is a good teacher in school and friends and support is you're making mistakes, learn from them. You have to make mistakes, really important. And then, underlining things like reading, grammar, vocab,
Yeah.
writing, they'll succeed. And in
Yeah.
terms of professional communication, I think being able to speak clearly, presenting
Hmm.
yourself clearly is really important.
Yeah.
Understanding technical terms and vocab within your industry, even having a great, well, this is to get a job, but having a great resume and LinkedIn and knowing what's said
Yeah.
on your resume and
And
how,
you help with that kind of stuff, don't you? Like the resume writing and everything. Yeah.
yeah, we do. And that's so cool. There's one student, Yamte from China, and, he passed his PTE. We bought him
Great.
some ramen packs and a Steam computer game voucher thing. And he saw, he's like, oh my God, I love it. And then we fixed his resume, his LinkedIn, his Seek job interviews. He's got the job. It's just
Ah,
like
awesome.
so cool. And knowing sort of how things work here. It's very different from like China to Australia and other
For
countries.
sure.
So knowing your industry, speaking clearly, speaking on the
Mm.
phone well, emails well. We do like practice templates and stuff and to do it. And I think it's like,
Yeah.
not what you just see in movies, what a professional speaker is,
Yeah.
especially in Australia. We use, I think the third and the most important would be like phrasal verbs and idioms. So
Yes.
there was I don't know if you have many engineers or architects
Not
students.
architects, a couple of engineers, but not too many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a lot from Turkey here and
Mm-hmm.
Iran and stuff. And one student asked me, she was like, they asked me, can you give me a lift? And I was like, what do you mean? How am I going to pick you up yet? And then, it was
Yeah.
about a drive, and
Yeah.
getting a lift in that way. And like,
Because they try and
even think,
translate the verb part of the phrase, don't they? They directly
yeah,
translate lift is an elevator. How can I give them that? Yeah.
yes. And do you ever have it where I kind of go the literal meaning to the abstract and the phrasal verb concept of going like, if you want to say something, I wanted to bring something up, doesn't mean this. It means you want to mention something in a meeting. And I don't think we realize how. So we work out of a
We
co-work
don't.
space here. We use it. We blend it all. And I don't know if you're
Yeah.
like maybe in a real professional job, but even then, break rooms and stuff, they use it all
Yeah.
the time. Like,
Yeah.
hey guys, just a quick heads up. We want
Yes.
to smash out this
Touch base.
today, and we're going to sort it out. Touch base, exactly. Let's
Yeah.
catch up, wrap up, knock back, knuckle down, carry on.
Exactly.
And when you're as a student in Australia listening to this, that's I always say to them, is it a verb, is it a noun, is it an adjective?
Mm.
See if you can, information, maybe from inform, break it down. Then go, if I don't know that part, could it be a phrasal verb? That's really important. So yeah, in Australia, it overlaps a lot and it's very casual. So I think
Yeah.
they can blend the general and professional together. Yeah, and just keep at it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? I've the joys of having social media with like a decent following is that you do get a lot of shitty comments, especially when like viral videos go viral. And most of the time it goes viral to the wrong audience. It will go viral to like Australians who don't need that information. And I've gotten comments before where people are like, what the hell is Australian English? It's just English and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, actually, it's the English spoken in Australia. But I do phrasal verb like carousels and stuff, and a lot of people don't realize that we use so many phrasal verbs in English in general, not just in Australia, but English. And, non-English speakers, it's really hard for them to understand those, especially if they're trying to translate directly the verb part of it or whatever it is. And yeah, so as Australians, we don't realize half the time when we use slang, or we don't realize when something is. And I don't know if this happened to you when you first started teaching or you started to meet people who are not from Australia, but I remember it first happened to me with a girl I used to be friends with from Canada. And I had said to her Arvo, and she had no idea what Arvo meant. And I had no idea that she had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know that Arvo was an Australian word. And even talking to my husband for the first time on the phone, I asked him, "How you going?" And he was like, "I'm not going anywhere." So, as Australians, that the words that we say or the phrases that we speak are
Yeah.
a lot of the time
Yeah.
specific to Australia only, that even like Americans and Canadians can't understand it.
It's such a great point, Amanda, because you bring up such a good point, and I think that connects to the like broader sense of learning English and what is an Australian, what is Aussie English, and what
Yeah.
is the right way to speak, and what is the acceptable way. And it's all over the shop. There's a phrase right there, right?
Yeah.
All over the place. And like a Queenslander can speaking to a Victorian or someone from Tassie and in Perth,
Yeah.
it is quite different. We're very multicultural here in Victoria. There's a lot of
Mm.
different cultures, nationalities, but it is right. And I think as a student, if you're listening to this, I would just say as well, don't get derailed by
Yeah.
anyone who says it's this way or that way or how you should do it. Represent yourself so you speak clearly in a way. And like this German student, for example, I can understand everything she says. And a lot of the
Yeah.
time, you just go as a teacher, you're fine. You can,
Yeah.
it is your sort of way. We do have the slang here, but only
Mm.
use it what fits and what
Exactly.
works for you. And I think anyone as well, like, you're saying the people on your social media and stuff. I think we've had a few yeah, talk about, they'll critique the Australian way, or actually, we don't say this. You know what? It's slang
Yeah.
at the same time. And
Exactly.
I
I'm
think,
Aussie. We don't say that. Well, you might not, but I do where I'm from.
and you
Yeah.
know what as well? I think generally Aussies are friendly. Most students are like,
Yes.
to describe us, they'll go, you're friendly and relaxed.
Yeah.
And you give it a go and speak to locals. They're generally friendly. Anyone who
For
does
sure.
put you down, they're a waste of space, like a waste of
It's
time.
a
Don't
them
worry.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't let it derail your studies and stuff, and keep going with that. And just think to yourself, would you put someone down learning French or Italian or whatever?
Yeah.
And you sort of have to maintain your identity and the way you are,
Yeah.
but also speaking in a different country. Yeah, it connects to a lot of things, doesn't it? And I think it's
Yeah.
just
It really does. Yeah. It's
that's where
so
you go as a
tricky.
teacher and support them and say, you're
Yeah.
fine, I'm good, you can do
Exactly.
this as well. And you've got maybe a new like way to describe something, which I think we
Yeah.
love as Aussies. Our whole thing, an Aussie slang, I think we're just bored of saying the right, proper way. We've got the Australian Open
Yeah.
on at the moment, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so consistent every year. Like, we love an Aussie battler,
Yeah.
and we love what do you call it? The the hero, like the person trying to take over the underdog, right?
Oh,
And
yes.
yeah, so I
Yeah.
think
We love a good underdog, don't we?
we do, and we kind of don't like that hugely formal way because we want to have a laugh
Yeah.
and get rid of that sort of like formality. So that's a big
Yeah.
part of the culture as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, what are some common challenges do you think international students and migrants face that you've seen in your profession when improving their English, and how do you help them overcome them? Sorry.
Yeah. Um, so many. I think the main three that always come up, our students say, are pronunciation, confidence. That word is used all the time. How do I speak
Mm-hmm.
confidently? I want confidence. Um, and slang and culture. So I think if you break it down confidence wise, okay, how do you get confident? How do you speak English
Yeah.
confidently? And you've
What
got to
does
speak as much
confidence
as,
mean to the person too? Because it could mean different things
yeah,
for different people. Such a
yeah,
broad
some
term.
people, it is. Yes, exactly. There's introverts, there's extroverts, what does that mean? I think it's about, speaking as much as you can, improving your fluency and your speed, speaking
Mm-hmm.
without translating or thinking, which is what we really push in our method and when we learn in our general English courses here today. So I think putting yourself out there into the real world and trying and speaking with locals is huge.
Yeah.
And like, I think you definitely need to go out and do that and trying new phrases, greetings, getting a good teacher,
Mm-hmm.
learning at least twice a week, even more. I would say if you're ready to learn, good for you. And also like smash it out, like really
Yeah.
go for it. Get yourself set up. And the best thing is training in the classroom and then you
Yeah.
apply it. So finding someone that works for you and then, immerse yourself in the culture, make mistakes, accept mistakes. That's a big part
Yeah.
pronunciation wise. And you probably do the same, but we do this every day and it's really shape and sound. We have so many videos that we've made it. It's the same thing,
Yeah.
learn how to make the shape to produce the sound. Like for your TH, so common, the
Yeah.
instead of that hard
Yes.
sounds compared to soft sounds, really open your mouth. I always say, don't speak like this only for brushing your teeth. A lot of students speak
Yeah.
like this. Keep going like that. Like your vowels, A, E, I, O, U, really use that opening and then hit hard for your consonants. S and TH really soft and long. So, that pay attention to pronunciation and then your slang as well. So, um, a lot of students want to just learn vocab, which is okay. It's part of it.
Yeah.
But I think overall, you really need to work on speaking and understanding. Like communication is really about
Yeah.
this. And you can watch
Yeah.
Netflix and look at the subtitles and stuff. But I
Mm.
think having conversations with people as well is big.
Yeah.
And then they love
Yeah.
correction. And I say all the time, I'm like, is it okay if you correct me? And they're like, oh my God, yes. And you now, in the method we use, we correct them all the time.
Yeah.
And just that constant correction is really big. So I think that, yeah, that can help you with your confidence, your speaking,
Mm-hmm.
the slang as well. And I think, yeah, the main challenge for people when they're improving their English is how and
Mm-hmm.
what is the way here,
Yeah.
and being connected to Melbourne and wherever you are in Australia and just not feeling like an outsider. So learn about what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
Time out urban lists, Secret Melbourne, I think it's called. Find out what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about. The locals, people love the footy when it's on. The Australian Open's on right now.
Yeah.
Melbourne, especially, there's always stuff going on.
Yeah.
Write a diary about what you've been doing that day. And yeah, so just like get amongst it with the culture. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful place. And work on your speaking, pronunciation, and slang.
Yeah. Definitely agree. They're probably the biggest challenges that I see with my students too.
Yep.
Um, Definitely pronunciation. I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but um, a lot of people think that being fluent means speaking fast, and that is not the
Yes.
case.
Yes.
And learning to slow
100%.
down and speak slowly, that's half the battle, because talking
Yep.
fast challenges that, I guess, listeners to that accent or language face. Like you were saying earlier on before, that, for example, Indians tend to talk very fast, and they do. And so when they speak fast in their own language, if they're very confident English speakers here in India, that speed picks up. Then they get to Australia and people can't understand them, and they think it's because of their accent. But a lot of the time, because Australians
Yes.
aren't used to
Yes.
hearing that really strong, rhotic kind of r, rolled R.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
so if
Yes.
someone's speaking really fast, that's honestly half the battle. But if you can learn to slow down your speech and try and articulate clearly and focus on some of those key sounds that maybe people aren't used to hearing in Australia, that you don't have to change much. It's just a few kind of key sounds and that speed, and that will make a huge difference. And then once you start
Yeah.
becoming comfortable in that, your confidence will come back because you'll have less people asking you to repeat yourself.
100%. And we do that with the PTE and IELTS tests as well.
Yeah,
And
true.
a lot of
Mm.
we say to them, you can't just learn templates. You have to fix your general English. Work on the sound first. The speed then will come.
Yes.
Learn how to say correctly first, like, how to pronounce that mouth or close, the THS combo. They're like, oh,
Yeah.
what the that, and that is quite hard. Or like next, the kurt's a
Yeah.
t sound. You know,
Yeah.
say it correctly. I always say like mouth, finish with the S, and then builds it
Yeah.
up.
Oh, that's how I do it too. Yeah. I'm like,
You do,
separate
yeah.
the
Oh
words,
my,
do them as
awesome.
separate words instead of like
Yes,
separate those
yes,
syllables and then bring it
yes.
together. And I do,
All the time. I'm going like this all the time, and then I'm
yeah.
writing on the board as well, like the phonetic way to say something. So
Yeah.
I'll even be like, ow, do ow, and then mao, and then se, and then s, like we kind of
Yeah.
learned in school as well. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's
Yeah.
such a big part of the job as well. And yeah, and there are a lot of Europeans here, and I think they really, especially like Eastern Europeans, and they really pronounce their words long, and they got that, accent. I'm from Croatia, like
Yeah.
this, and they speak, and they're naturally a little bit slower with it, or Italians, But I think people
Yeah.
from perhaps Asia or South America, like, a Spanish speaking person, whereas Barcelona,
Yeah.
like, it's like they don't really hit or stop or pronounce. You need to know when to like hit it and then let it go. And
Yeah.
that's the
True.
adjustment. And then
It's like the
from
complete
Asia, especially,
opposite to Europe, like the Eastern Europeans.
which is hard, And then the
Yeah.
RNL for Japan, that's like,
Yeah.
so famous it's so hard for them to learn where to put their tongue and their
Yeah.
shape. And you ever get students who you can see they're like, it's really hard for them to change and to move and to
Yeah.
use that sound.
Yeah.
And
I'm like that in
yeah,
Hindi with my R's because, we don't really use R in Australian English, right? So I get a bit stuck sometimes depending on when the word for me to roll, I have to use the
I
roti
bet.
R. Like
Can you
to
roll?
do,
I can't do it.
I can a little bit because in Italian, when I learnt Italian as a kid, I had learnt to roll my tongue a little bit then. So Hindi for that side of things wasn't too bad. But like, for example, there's a word, and I have to use it a lot here. I've just started asking people to slow down when they speak too fast because
That's
I
cool.
can't, yeah, I'm very
Yeah.
specific. So to say slow, it's dire, dire.
The
I've done this like the last two interviews. I've explained dire bolie, which means speak slowly. But I always get stuck with the
ah,
R because of it's kind of in the second syllable, essentially. Whereas
Mm.
if it's at the beginning, it's fine. Or if it's at the end, it's fine. So, for example, I speak English with an Indian accent here
Mm.
because the number four, we obviously don't use the R, but I have to say it for Indians, Ford. So it's easier for me to roll it
Ah,
at the end or at the beginning, but in the middle of words, oh, it's so hard. I get so tongue
I know.
tied.
I do the same thing with do you do it with your students as well? I do it where I'm like, I will maybe get rid of a preposition or something or an article
Mm-hmm.
and as well. And you know, one student I just had before from Thailand, and she's getting into high school and she's practicing her essay writing. And there's a
Mm.
big thing as well. Like what today we've noticed was you have to do exercises and training to discover what's your challenge, what's your problem
Yeah.
to fix.
Yeah. True.
So she would say something like, I love volleyball. It's challenging. Because it's challenging because was the word she's missing, or
Yeah.
it's all
True. Yes.
referring back to the thing by using
Mm.
because challenging, because it's challenging.
Yeah.
That was another one there as well. And there's a lot, hey, that you
Oh
can,
gosh, I know. But like
yeah,
you said earlier on, I think as a language teacher, it's really important that you have either learned a language in the past or you're actively learning a language because it helps you relate to the student, you to understand more. I never really had too many Indian students when I first started teaching, but
yeah,
I worked it out last night because I've had quite a few recently sign up and I've got about 35-ish students, active students, and
great.
one quarter of them are Indian and at least one third
Mm,
of them are South Asian. So I think it's really cool for me. Most of the Indians speak or understand Hindi. So I can understand the challenges or the mistakes they make because of
yeah,
me understanding the language. So it is
yeah.
really cool. And I think it's really important, like I said, and you said earlier, that as language teachers that we do understand the process of learning a language because it just helps us be better teachers.
Yep, 100% that awareness for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, one last question before we finish up. What advice would you give to someone who wants to feel more confident using English in Australia?
I'd say that you're not alone and that, that not even that you can do it, you will do it. You will feel more confident, you will speak English, apply yourself, keep going, get a good
Mm-hmm.
teacher, get a good class, get a good support around you. Focus on your speaking, speak, focus on your pronunciation, repetition. It takes time, but eventually you will see the progress. Usually in our
Yeah.
class, the first 2 to 4 hours is crucial. And it's that the first part of your learning, I think. I don't know if it's an average of 2 years to improve your learning, but you can do it much quicker. Make it fun. Learning English is fun. It definitely
Yeah.
can be. It is. It is share the load and pressure with other people, connect,
Mm-hmm.
and, try meetup.com and other groups and things to
Yeah.
speak with others and relate, to make sure that you're engaged. Fun classes are engaging and fun. If, like
Mm-hmm.
we were mentioning before, if anyone gives you trouble or makes you feel horrible about speaking English incorrectly, don't worry about them. Just let that go.
Yeah.
Keep focusing on
They're
your
the
goals.
minority, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. Relate it, like, why are you learning English? Is it because of
Yeah.
is it socially? Is it for your job? Is it for, to get a visa to fulfill your dreams? Like, that's what really inspires me and gets me really
Yeah.
passionate, is because it helps people to do that and make mistakes, learn from the mistakes. You will always make mistakes. You're not going to be perfect. So keep
Even
that
native
going
speakers make mistakes.
all the
Sometimes I've noticed a
time.
grammar mistake in a
Grammatically,
video I've
yeah.
made or pronunciation. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
and that's the thing. It's like you're not meant to be perfect as
Exactly.
well. And learn Aussie slang, get into the spirit of it. Look how many comedians, stand-up comedians come from overseas and come here. And all they do is take the piss out of our culture. Some Irish guy or English guy was talking about the Melbourne cricket ground, how we shortened it to the MCG to now just the G, you know? And I think like
Such an Aussie
learn
thing. Yeah.
it is, and get in the spirit of that. Don't focus just on vocab. That's sort of the easy part, I think, is you can get that stuff for free. And, I
Yeah.
think the real vocab is like phrases and idioms and slang and use that
For sure.
in everyday life, speaking every day. And yeah, give yourself a break as well. Remember to enjoy Australia, your city and environment,
Hmm.
and you definitely will improve. And yeah, keep at it.
Yeah, great advice. Exactly what I would say.
Yeah, cool.
All right. So, how can people contact you, Tom, if they want to know more? What's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, for sure. So you can go on our website, acelanguageacademy.com.au. It has all of our info there, email, WhatsApp, all the socials, YouTube, things like that. You can book your free trial there and meet me, your teacher, go through your goals and beginning your English journey. You can send us an email at info@acelanguage.com.au. Also, through this podcast, through this chat as well, if you use the code ACEMATE, you get $100 off your first general English course as well.
Okay. We'll pop all
And you
of that
can
in
do it.
the description anyway, as well. If anyone's wondering if they missed that, that'll be in the
Yeah,
description.
sweet, perfect. And yeah, just get in touch with us through our website.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
joining me today, Tom. It's been so nice to catch up again.
Yeah, you too, Amanda. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.